I got this message from Dell, who's asked really some great questions, which actually I think you'll all benefit from. So rather than me just reply to him in an email, what I want to do is record this and add it in for you all to see, because you probably all thought the same as these questions at some point. I know I have. And because they've been brought up, I think it will help everyone. So basically, Dell's asked that on his diet, the most expensive part of eating a diet to stay lean is the protein, and eating things like turkey, chicken, and steak all end up costing money. Now, if you haven't watched my recent 2 videos on YouTube, go and have a look at those. I've done 2 videos recently, one on shopping at Aldi for under £100 and one for shopping at Iceland. And they're both great videos in that they basically explain how you can buy these low fat, under 5% beef, under 5% chicken. You can get mince that's frozen from Iceland, and so you can cook it from frozen, so it won't even go off in your fridge. You can just throw it in the pan, add some seasoning, add some, like, what I do is I add some chopped peppers that I also get frozen. And if you want to add any other ingredients or veg in there, you can. I don't like using onion. I know probably a lot of people would add onion to mince, but onion's a massive inflammation trigger food for many. It's a high FODMAP food, so what we want is foods that digest really well. And unfortunately, onion and garlic, which are 2 great flavourings, cause for a lot of people issues. So you may be okay to have them on occasion, and you probably are, but if you were to bulk cook your chicken or your turkey or your steak mince and use onion and garlic, which is what I would love to do, to be honest, it would taste the best, and I was having that sort of 2 or 3 times a day, every day, I know that this would cause inflammation and bloating in not just me, but all of us. And that's going to stop you seeing a lean physique or weight loss, if that's your goal, on a scale at the end of the week. So try and avoid those, but use other like Cajun seasonings and so on that just aren't fully garlic. Now, the cheapest options of beef, if you look at the Aldi video, is actually buying a joint of beef, because a whole joint of beef, which is about 1 kilo, costs about, I think it's about £10. That's the one I bought in Aldi, and that's totally lean. If you put it in the air, not an air fryer, if you put it in a slow cooker or a pressure cooker for a few hours with a bit of beef stock, then and seasoning, it comes out, flavors great, and you can just rip it apart with forks and basically make shredded beef. Now, you could do that with a turkey joint, and a great saving tip is I bought loads of turkey joints after Christmas, put them in the freezer, and then just do that, because they shred up, and because of the stock and the pressure cooking, they say super succulent. And if you've had shredded beef before, that's something that's really easy to eat. It's digests super well, better than steak, because it's been slow cooked for hours, and it stews in its own juices, if you like. You get loads of really great nutrition from the bone broth, the beef broth even. I'll get my words out, it's getting late over here. And if you want to bulk it out, things like carrots and even potatoes you can throw in. It just makes it a little bit more awkward to measure how much you're eating, but we'll bulk out the meal. So what I would suggest is do that. Get yourself a beef joint, a turkey joint, and so on, even a chicken joint. And they sell them in Iceland frozen. They sell them in Aldi. And there's, I say, they're about, for a kilo, about a tenner for the beef. Now, if you bought steak for a tenner, you might be lucky if you got 2 steaks, right? So that shows you how much. And 2 steaks would be about, I don't know, 350 grams maybe, for the same price as buying a whole kilo of a joint. So that's one really cheap way of doing it. Now, mince used to be super cheap, but it's now quite expensive. You probably noticed that. But in Iceland, I would go and get their 5% minced beef there. Yeah, they do meatballs there as well that are 5%. Make sure they're 5%. And you get 3 packs for £10. So there's another alternative. And that's what I do. That's what I use. Now, you could probably say there's better beef joints out there and there's better cuts of beef, and there are. Grass-fed beef is the top tier, and that's what I would suggest if you haven't got any funding options. But the 2 videos I've done and this little talk here is about how to do it cheaply, affordable, and still eat quality food. That is single ingredient, and that's the main trigger, is having single ingredient foods, not foods like, I don't know, burger patties and so on that we're going to have 5 or 6 other ingredients in there, like breadcrumbs and all sorts of numbers. So that's the best option. Now, You can buy chicken cheap. You can go online and buy this. Muscle Meat, I think, is one, or Muscle Foods, it might be. They sell big packs of chicken, which is cheaper. And then you can get 5 kilos for £1, I think. I don't buy any chicken, and I don't do any chicken because I hate dried chicken once you've cooked it and you warm it up the next day. I obviously use Prep King because they do kilo bags of already cooked chicken, which is super moist. But you could buy a load of chicken breast, like I say, cheap, 5 kilos, and stick that in the pressure cooker with some stock and shred that. And that works really well and stays moist the next day. Iceland also do big bags of chicken mince, chicken breast mince, super lean. And that's cheaper than the steak. You get more for your money, and you can cook that in the same way, straight frozen into the pan. Now, if you're wanting to take things even further and make things even cheaper and you're using cream of rice, then what I do is I just go to you can buy it online on Amazon actually, but it's cheapest if you go to one of these little Turkish supermarket type shops. I don't know if you've got any of them around you. They might have it in a big Tesco in the kind of funny aisle where they do foreign foods and so on, but they do just rice flour. Ground rice or rice flour is the same as cream of rice. To get a kilo of that, or 2 kilos of that rather, is about £3 or £4 compared to a flavoured tub of cream of rice is £25. So there's a real cheaper way of doing that. Now, obviously, unflavoured cream of rice just tastes like nothing. So you're going to have to put a bit of stevia in to sweeten it if you want it sweet. A little bit of salt helps, some cinnamon. If you're going to throw some blueberries in, then it actually tastes okay, but that's the only flavour you're going to have. So what you can do, and what I do, is I do that most of the time. But if I fancy something a bit more flavoursome, I'll use a scoop of a cream of rice and a scoop of my normal unflavoured rice to give me that flavour. And to be honest, most cream of rice is over sweetened and sickly in my opinion. So this gives you a better balance, but now you can mess around with different flavours. You can buy flavouring powders. There is a company online that sell flavouring powders where you just add a tiny bit of this powder and it'll flavour a bland cream of rice. There's a company called ESN, which is a bodybuilding company, but they sell little flavouring pots for about 15 quid, 10 quid, something like that. And you only use a small amount. You can flavour anything with that, even your yogurt and so on. So that might be an option if you want to have a mess around with some flavours as well. And then finally, Dell's asked about if he trains first thing in the morning, because when he works nights, he'll get up and normally go straight to the gym. Should he be doing the training fasted, or should he have a meal before or after, and so on? Now, this question's also very good for if you train super early and you don't do nights, but you go to work and you're up super early to go to the gym. I know some people get up at 4, 5. I know one of my clients, Lee, gets up at 2, 2:30, something like that in the morning, which is the middle of the night, but he's crazy. He loves it. And if you haven't seen his transformation, have a check out of that. That's on my Instagram. That's really inspirational. But what I would do if I get up super early, regardless of the shift I'm on, and I'm going to get up and just go straight to the gym because it's the best time for me to do it, I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't eat if I'm getting up at 4 o'clock or first thing in the morning to train, because whatever you eat is going to take a good couple of hours to break down and digest. If you're going to go and train on that, you won't perform better, you'll perform worse, because the process of digesting the food will draw your energy away from the gym, and you'll perform less effectively in the gym. You'll get less of a pump because all your blood and all the nutrients is trying to digest this meal. And then you're going to train on it, and you may find that you get some nausea or cramp. And if you're training legs, you might even be sick. So who wants that? So what I would do if you're going that early in the morning, I would get up in the morning, I'd have 20 grams of amino loader, the Amino Man amino loader. So you've got some aminos in which are pre-digested, don't need any digesting. I would have 20 grams of a carb powder, cyclic dextrin type of carb powder, which can be found in Carbex, which is available anywhere really, but you can get it on Amazon. It's about 20 quid for a big tub. And so you just use 20 grams of that with your amino loader. And I would drink that in 400 or 500 ml of water with a gram of my recommended salt, which is Bayer Gold salt, which again you can get on Amazon. Bag of that will last you 3 or 4 months. And then you're going to get your electrolytes, all your minerals from the salt. You're going to get some electrolytes and all your aminos to prevent muscle breakdown in the gym. And you're going to get Carbex in there, which is going to support the training, but also shuttle the nutrients, the aminos and so on. And if you're using creatine, put that in there as well. And that will shuttle that into the cells, into the system, so you'll perform better. And Carbex is a type of carbohydrate powder that doesn't need digesting. It's got a really low osmosis. That means that it won't sit in your stomach for long, and it'll bypass through your digestive tract really well. Now, don't go and buy something like dextrose, which is even cheaper, because that forms a big lump in your gut and that will actually take away your energy. So you do have to get this brand Carbex. There is another carb powder called Vitago you could use, but I do prefer Carbex now. Vitago was the top tier some years ago, but it's been overtaken. And then whilst I'm training, I would also mix another 20 grams of amino load with the 20 grams again of Vitago. And if you're using creatine, 5 grams in there as well, in a big litre or litre and a half of water, where it's more diluted, because you'd want it more diluted so you process it better whilst you're exercising, and drink that through your training. Now you'll have drunk 2 litres of water before the day's even really started. You've done your workout, you've supported your muscle breakdown with the aminos, preventing that from happening, and you've used Carbex, which will blunt cortisol and prevent muscle breakdown, as well as give you energy to drive in the gym, but only 40 grams of carbs in total, which won't sacrifice or detriment to your diet, but will help with performance and pumps. So the sodium that I mentioned as well from the Bayer Gold will greatly help with the pump. And then once you've come back from training, you haven't got to eat immediately after you finish training, because you've had the carbs and the aminos to prevent cannibalism through training. But when you're hungry or within an hour after training, I'd go on to your meal one. And that is probably the best advice for those questions. So I hope that helps. Actually, if you've got any other questions, anyone, fire them over. Maybe this is something that you'd like to see more often. Let me know if it's been helpful. See you next time.